Hey gang, it's me again. It's been the hardest week since I was homeless. I definitely almost spoke too soon by saying I made it. When I counted my money, I owed 120 bucks, which that's over 2,000 cans. In the summer, it'd be no problem. It's been freezing, so I had to resort to something that I'd heard about. I didn't think it was going to work. It's a small trick. It's not really worth the time. You're only making an extra few pennies for working a lot of paper cutting and screwing around. But I'm telling you, I had faith that I was going to get through, even though that was the most money I've ever made. I really had no choice. My landlord threatened to throw me out just yesterday. I only got it paid this morning, or the 7th. Um, so listen to this about faith. Want to hear something crazy? So I needed basically what I did was some cans are not returnable because they don't have agreements because they don't have offices in this province. But it's the same aluminum. Usually the cans are actually a lot bigger, so no one's losing out. It's still recycling. So I heard I figured out and I heard there was some machines that would accept them by basically putting on a barcode. So it's really not worth the time. I don't suggest it because all you're really doing is making a nickel, and you're working. It's easier to run around look for cans. You make more money looking for more. But in the winter, there was none. So I said, okay, well, I'll look for the cans. I'll take the ones that are left in the garbages by other guys because they're not really worth anything, and I'll photocopy and print out barcodes, and I'll put them on, and I'll make more money. And that really helped because those cans get left behind, and I knew that. So I mean, I've been working day and night. I barely slept, and my apartment here is crazy. I don't want to show it to you because there's evidence everywhere. Not that 5 or 10 cents, multiplied by 20 or 30 here and there is going to make a difference to people, but it looks like a disaster. It looks like what was that movie again? Anyways, so So I have a place that I can print out photocopies for free at the employment center. So I make my barcodes, and I go sit down at a computer, and I print them out, and I get back, and it works. It works perfectly. All right, this is great. I mean, I wasn't very relieved because I still owed way too much money. It didn't seem feasible. I knew it was going to take me a lot longer. I kept pushing my landlord up a day, another day, another day. I worked nonstop. And yesterday the weather was good. It was Friday, so that really helped. But listen to this. So that first day it works great, and I make an extra 10 or 15 bucks over what I normally did, which was maybe only 10 or 15. It's okay. I'm at it was warm. It was recycling day. I had 30 or 40 bucks, and the next day I go back and I do more printouts, and I get back, and it's not working. Zero. I can't figure it out. I'm saying, wait a second. They couldn't have changed the software over, $15 the machine takes in, I'm sure, several thousand a day. It's always people pumping in. And it's not like they're still aluminum. It wouldn't make sense. It's not like there's even theft going on, and I can't figure it out, and I'm panicking. I mean, I'm scared. I said, my God, that was the way I was gonna just make it. And when I say just make it, like I said, this morning is the 7th, and I just made it. I had 35 cents left after paying him off, and I was in a state of shock. I thought, that's it. I'm getting evicted. I'm losing my place. I spoke too soon. I shouldn't have released the video. Cursing myself up and down for overspending on New Year's, or over the New Year's break. I can't figure it out, and it just doesn't make sense, and I'm just racking my brain. And then I look at them both. I compare one code I had from the day before with the ones here, and I look at them, and I go, oh, one I made today is just a little tiny bit less sharp. I mean, so slightly. It was just like it was a pixel over or something. It was not very visible, but I said, okay, there is a difference. And then I realized I sat at a different machine, so I went back and I tried the machine I sat at the day it worked, and it worked again. Now, when I talk about faith and luck and stuff, how I've been lucky, first of all, well, had I sat at the other machine the first time, or any other machine perhaps, I'm not sure what the other printers are like, I never would have known it even works. Because I never tried it before. It's really not worth the money, in other in other situations, other circumstances. I don't plan on doing it again. But I mean, I thought, oh my God, did I get lucky? Had I sat at the other one, I still would have had a barcode that looked beautiful for all intents and purposes, but didn't work. And I would have thrown the whole idea away. But now at least I know, well, if I really get in trouble, there's always that kind of ridiculous thing. And if it doesn't work, it's because the printer is not sharp enough. So I'm just saying, I was so thankful that I happened to sit at that printer the first time that I tried it, because that gave me the success I needed. And when it didn't work the second time, I realized that my faith was breaking. I started to get really angry, really emotionally dysregulated. And then I realized, it's like CPTSD and trauma from narcissistic abuse and psychopathic abuse. It's about a break in our faith. We had faith before in people and in honesty and in the just, injustice of the world and in interpersonal relationships. And our faith is broken. I'm sure in many of our cases, the faith was broken as children and repressed, but still there. We didn't know we didn't have the faith, but we acted like we didn't have the faith, and we probably still do in a lot of ways. You know. And then I said, well, how come my faith didn't break? Like I still held on to it, because I can see from my psychopath and the narcissist, their faith seems to be completely broken. And yet I feel like I have some kind of, my borderline symptoms are a little bit both narcissistic and psychopathic, to be honest. And I realized, well, it's my brother. My brother was a sibling who kept me along. And I had faith in him. He had faith in me. So no matter what the world or our parents did to us, him and I were good. We're good enough. We weren't bosom buddies until we were in our, 30s. But even growing up, well, at least we had each other, and we laughed at our parents. We can count on each other for being consistent. And I noticed that a lot of us who are on YouTube seem to talk about our siblings. And I think maybe that's what kept us, from falling into a more severe pattern of thought. And when I think about narcissists, the ones I know, all of them, they seem to have too many siblings. That's what I noticed. Seems like they were overwhelmed, perhaps, with different people, and perhaps that for that reason they couldn't really manage consistency. Maybe everyone, there was so much politics, they had to start playing games with 4 or more siblings, or even 3, I imagine, in a smaller place, or who are really close. When I think 2 is a borderline. 2 suffering children is a recipe for borderline. At least you hang on to your faith even though you're crazy. And I think for psychopaths, what it comes down to is they just didn't have enough stimulation at all. I've read that in many studies, that isolation is a main factor in the nurture element of psychopaths. And my ex told me about, I don't know if she was lying, but she definitely mentioned about being left alone in the basement. And I'll explain to you in later on another video why that might have happened. So that's my thought, that borderlines have 1 or 2 close siblings that kept their faith on, even though the faith of the world is broken. Narcissists, I think they have faith. I just think that they're so protective because they had too many siblings. They were always playing games and trying to be better than each other and outdo each other, and so that kind of destroyed them. And with psychopaths, I think they just didn't have anything to have faith in. Their parents were not around. They were neglected, isolated. They couldn't have faith in the system because a lot of them were raised in poverty. And even if they were raised wealthy, if their parents were psychopathic, I mean, I was raised wealthy. My parents were so cruel that I lost faith in just as much in. I lost faith in money because I thought, well, it just didn't seem to, like, that's all they talked about, and yet I felt like they weren't paying any attention to us. We're not gonna make this video short. I realize again, back to faith, because that's what this video is about. I seem to talk about it a lot these days because it seems to work. Something else that happened, which was just a total. I mean, tell me this, guys, girls. Tell me this isn't lucky. I mean, so I'm gonna owe 120 bucks. And remember, I said that I have to run back and forth to get fed to the two different missions that feed me, one in the morning and one in the evening. That's about 3-4 hours a day, and that's too much time when you're trying to make 120 bucks and you have to cut papers and do all this ridiculous stuff. As it is, I work every minute of the day. I'm exhausted. I'm gonna fall asleep as soon as I finish this video. Well, what happens on New Year's, the Starbucks near my place threw away in one bag about 20 beautiful sandwiches, which I guess, well, the expiry date was New Year's, so I suppose they knew they were going to be closed the day after New Year's, and then maybe an extra day or whatever it is, there weren't going to be people around, or perhaps just the end of the month, they always turn over. Maybe I'll get lucky again next month, but I found this bag, which had no garbage in it at all. All it had was 20 beautiful sandwiches, turkey pesto, chicken with artichoke. I mean, these things were delicious. Probably sell for $10 at least each, maybe 12. So I found that, and as I'm eating the second day, I'm thinking, man, the only problem is I don't have any desserts. So I'm eating a lot of great food, but I want sweets, and I can't afford to spend on any cookies or wafers or anything. But I need sugar to keep my brain active. I'd seen on a video on ADHD and on concentration and focus that sugar is important. And since watching that video, I realized, yeah, if I don't have sugar, it doesn't matter how much other food I have, I don't really feel like working. So, well, 2 days later, it took 2 days for faith to come through, or God or Jesus to answer my prayers. I'm walking past a bakery, and I see 5 bags. 5 bags, like beautiful paper bags, like, thick paper like you would take out of a bakery. And I think it might have been a Starbucks also, actually. And I walk over and look inside, and the things are filled with pastries, croissants. I don't know if you have that in the U.S. There were danishes, muffins, cupcakes. There was squares of fudge. There was date cookies. I mean, it was everything, and tons of it. I left 2 bags behind. I didn't want to be a total pig. I figured the next guy will find it and be just as happy. He won't know there was 5, and for all I know, there was 20. But I took 3. I wasn't going to undersell myself. I thought, my God, it's like, somebody wants me to have this. So then I had food and desserts and delicious, high, expensive stuff that was in perfect shape for about a week. I finished today. So look at that. I sat at the right printer, and I found food and desserts. And yesterday I found rolling paper. Not yesterday, it was 2 days I found rolling paper, and today I ran out. And I don't have any money because I'm too exhausted. And after spending on the rent, I only have 35 cents, and I just needed to do nothing today. I've barely eaten. I haven't even drank in much. I'm thirsty. I don't have anything to drink here except for water, which is not great. But I feel good that it's paid off. I was screaming the whole week. I was really upset. It was my poor neighbors. I'm gonna have to buy her flowers and buy her. I don't know her, so I'll just apologize. Now, one last thing I want to say. I found myself lately for the past year, thanking God and thanking Jesus, and I realized, I was like, what is it? How come I'm doing that? Like I don't really know much about the belief system, and yet I always thought that was ridiculous when I heard other people do that. I thought, oh, that sounds like so flaky. But then I realized with difference that since I think those things have happened and my faith has grown, that my image had disappeared. I don't have any image of what God or Jesus is. When I say God or Jesus, I don't really actually think about the man on the crucifix or the being in the sky. It's like in the Jewish religion, we're not even supposed to pronounce the name of God. And I think now I get it, because in the end of the day, as soon as you have an image, like I read on the internet, a lot of people will say, well, how can you believe about a man in the sky, or you believe in him, Jesus was just a a hoaxer or whatever like that. And just don't get it because I don't think about a man or a guy in the sky. I think about a void, inversed. It's like a nothingness, and from that nothingness, everything comes back. And by going into the void and taking what you want, basically, because it's everything and nothing. So it's hard to explain, but it's like the space between words. When I pause and then I can talk again, it's the space that makes the difference. It's having patience, because I've always had perseverance, and talking and doing and writing. These are all acts of perseverance. But what I've learned in terms of faith, it's about having patience. I'm going to ask for sweets or sugars or something to keep me going, and it may not happen, but if it does happen, it's not going to happen in 5 minutes. This isn't the Steve Jobs invention. So it's the space between the words that are spoken, and on the page, it's the space between the words. And if you want to say the punctuation, not really. It's really the space. And this space that I talk about, which is the patience of waiting for the next word, that's the void that I think of in terms of God and Jesus. It's like they exist, not when I'm talking, it's when I'm not talking. See what I mean? It's a crazy thought, but it's between the actions and between the objects and between the elements that the magic happens. And it's about having patience that the magic will happen. I mean, we've come a long way. I realize that, we're all a group of people who really had it rough. People with good parents, normal relationships, normal wives or husbands, pastors or teachers. They were nurtured. They thrived off it. They grew off it. They got what they needed, and we didn't. But the fact that we have resiliency is a character trait that is why we're here, and that resiliency is perseverance. But what I'm trying to get at is that we have to practice perseverance in our actions, but we should also practice perseverance in our inactions. It's not always about doing. People are always running around. I notice the psychopaths. It's all about action, action, action. Do, get it done. Do whatever you have to do to get it done. Narcissists. It's about getting the money, making it, controlling. Do control, and they just don't get it. It's about not doing that. And as soon as you stop, it's like good things happen. But you have to have faith. Or you don't have to have it, but it's like a practice where you say, you know what, I'm not going to do it, and I'm going to have faith things are going to work out. And that's how I got to this situation, right? I saw poverty coming, and I saw the job listings, and I had some offers, to say the truth. And I said, you know what, I feel like it's just not going to, it's not what I should be doing again. It's a cycle. I was going on and on and on. So I said, well, I'm just going to practice something I never did before, and that's inaction. I felt like I was sitting on train tracks, watching the train coming, and I said, you know what, for once, I'm not going to jump away. And maybe I did that because when I met the psychopath, my brother had just passed away, and I said to her, after about a week of knowing her, I said, you know what, if my brother was alive and I told him about you, he would convince me in 5 minutes not to be with you. I said, and for that reason, because he's not there to pull me off the track, so to speak, I'm going to sit here and see exactly what it is with you, because you're very interesting, I said to her. I said, you certainly are mysterious. And I did. And the train hit me. She was a train, and she smashed right through me, and she took me way, I flew way off the tracks from her as well as my parents. But at the end of the day, I'm glad I got hit by her, because it was by getting hit by her train that I was able to see my parents' train for what it was. I mean, my parents' train hit me too, but I think had I not met the psychopath, it would have been like my parents' train just would have run me over and killed me like it did to my brother. Yeah, I feel like I owe her my life. I figure, by watching her. I'm gonna give you one last thing before I go because I know I'm way over. I keep talking and I'm talking, but something interesting again in comparison between my psychopathic ex-girlfriend and my mother's narcissistic piece of, I don't know what you want to say. Well, my ex, I watched her, right? See, I knew she was a psychopath, but I stayed with her. I just didn't say anything. And I just played it very careful. When I felt things were getting dangerous, I darted. Dangerous again, because she already had me arrested and cost me $25,000. So when I went back to explore her, um, I was a lot more careful, and it didn't take long. It took maybe, I think, 6 weeks at that first time that I went back, where I said, you know what, I feel I'm going to get, like, shot. I feel like something's going to happen. I'm going to get in worse trouble than she did the first time. I had no control over what she could have done. But she would tell me things that made her look bad. And I've known a lot of male psychopaths, and it's just not really in their nature to put themselves down to get away with anything. They'll either stay quiet, or they'll put their quality, they'll raise their qualities artificially. But my ex would do things to pretend she didn't have money, and to pretend she was dumb and that she couldn't really act. She did all these things to upset me and to use my being upset as a reason to leave for a few hours and do tricks or whatever she was. Well, we'll talk in other videos. But by learning that from her, especially this one where she said, I made food for a week, only one big pot of food, because I learned that from my grandfather. It's the best way to save money. But, you wouldn't really like it because I use really, like, low quality chicken. So, yeah, I don't really think you want to come over. And at the time, I was naive and I thought it was true. And I said, yeah, it doesn't sound great. You eat it yourself. But I was impressed that she would save money that way. End of the day, she wasn't doing that. All right, she was making a ton of money as a prostitute, escort, and all kinds of other illegal activities. And she just put herself down to make her look, to make her story believable, something that I just was not familiar with. And you know what? I realized just 3 days ago, my mother has been doing the same, or had been doing the same to me for decades. She would tell us that she was going to play mahjong with her friends, and come back and say, "Oh, I lost $3.25." And I tell her, "What, you play for 5 hours? What do you play for?" She goes, "Well, we play for 10 and 15 cents a piece, and I'm happy," she would tell me, "if I walk away $15 up. If I make everyone else broke, because there's a maximum. No one can lose more than $7." And it sounded ridiculous, just like a lot of my ex-girlfriends, a lot of stories, but I still believed it. I didn't think she would be lying to me. I figured, okay, she's willing to spend 5 hours to make, $6 or lose $7, and I guess it's for the companionship. Because myself, just to let you know, I wouldn't sit down to play cards unless I was playing with $500, or, if I'm not going to walk away really happy, then I'm not really interested in playing games. If I'm gonna go walk home maximum $20 after playing 5 hours, I'm not sitting around a table with a bunch of guys smoking cigarettes and talking about ridiculous things for 5 hours to walk away with $20. It just wasn't true. My mother was using that as an excuse to be a philanderer, to get away with all kinds of things. And by saying she didn't make a lot of money, she didn't have to justify any wins or losses, right? Because my father, and I guess anyone else in case they happen to know her financial situation, would never expect to see a great win or a great loss. So, and just like my ex, she would often tell me when I came over, let's say if I came over the next day after she made one of those big pot of soups that was going to save her money over the week, and she wouldn't have it, well, then she would usually tell me that didn't work out and she threw it away. I mean, she only did this about 4 or 5 times, but you know that's enough over the period of only about a year. And I would come, she would, oh, it didn't work out, or she would bring out a regular sized soup that she had there, and she'd say, oh, this is what's left. I had a friend over yesterday, and we went crazy. We thought it was disgusting. She'd always put it down. Just new to me. I always knew guys and people in general to brag, narcissists. But I guess when it comes to psychopathic motivation, they'll do anything. They'll do anything. Anyhow, the message is now I'm really back. The landlord's paid. I'm tired. It's been the longest week. Hope you guys are all doing well. Thanks for watching. I'm sorry it's a little bit boring, I know. I might not even post it. It's that boring. Adieu, good night, and remember, it's the void. It's not about the words. See? It's about the space. Bye.